The story revolves around Peter, an FBI undercover agent embedded in a drug cartel. He receives a call from Officer Wilcox informing him that a large shipment of drugs will arrive at the airport at midnight the following day. Due to the cartel's immunity, the police cannot directly intervene. Almost simultaneously, the cartel itself confirms this information to Peter. Concerned for his family, Peter takes his daughter to see his wife, Sophia, and instructs her to turn off all the lights and not open the door for anyone until the operation is complete. He also warns Sophia that if he doesn't return by 10 o'clock, she must take their daughter and flee, although she doesn't believe anything bad will happen. Meanwhile, Wilcox reports her plan to her superiors. Peter will lead them to the head of the largest fentanyl distribution network in the country. The plan is approved, and Wilcox reports that she has 11 people involved in the operation. She then convened a team meeting to explain that the drug lord was behind the gang and that the drug delivery would take place at his factory the following day. Peter met Wilcox in a public restroom. She gave him a phone with a hidden listening device and a backup device to conceal. Wilcox reassured him that her team would be closely monitoring him, and if Peter said he wanted to smoke, it would be the signal for them to raid and arrest him, freeing him from his life of crime. The next day, Peter and the drug lord's nephew went to the airport to pick up 6 bags of drugs from a major drug lord. On the way, they took the drug lord to his hotel, while Peter secretly hid the drugs under the car seat. Later, Stasek changed his plan, deciding to go to a bar because he had found a buyer. Wilcox overheard this and reported it to her superiors. Although they missed the opportunity to arrest the drug lord, they were still ordered to arrest the buyer and seize the drugs. At the bar, Peter became suspicious of the buyer and inquired about his connections in the underworld. The man mentioned 2 names, one in prison and one missing. This detail made Peter realize he was an undercover New York City police officer. He tried to warn and chase the man away to avoid danger, but the officer suddenly drew his gun, revealing his identity. Stasek immediately appeared and shot him dead. Peter panicked and signaled for a cigarette to get help. However, when he went outside, he found Wilcox and her team had retreated because the murder of a New York City officer made further involvement impossible. Peter returned to the bar with the gang to dispose of the officer's body and was then taken to see the boss. He was searched thoroughly, but he had no equipment with him. Inside, Peter witnessed the boss beating Stasek for his impulsive act of killing a New York City police officer, an act that would certainly lead to a police crackdown. However, the boss quickly changed his tune. He said Stasek was his nephew and had fired to save Peter because the gun was pointed at him at the time. This meant Peter owed him his life. When Peter asked how to repay the debt, the drug lord demanded he return to his old prison, becoming his exclusive drug distributor for 5 years. Peter refused, but the lord threatened that his family was no longer safe because he knew their hiding place. He reassured Peter that his family would be protected if he went to prison. Upon his release, Peter saw his family in person and painfully brought them home. He called Wilcox, reproaching her for abandoning him. Wilcox coldly replied that her job was only to lead them to the drug lord, and the bar incident was outside her purview. Peter then vented his anger at Sophia for not escaping as planned, but she said she had waited for him hoping he would return. That night, the gang disposed of the body in a gruesome manner. Stasek slit the victim's throat and cut out his tongue. Shortly after, New York police discovered the body. Officer Grenz, a close friend of the victim Daniel, took on the case and was determined to find the killer. He reviewed the security cameras around the bar and assigned the task to a close female colleague. Grenz suspected the mastermind was a Pole and believed the area's biggest drug lord was involved, but he didn't report to his superiors yet. The cameras recorded Daniel entering the bar at 11 o'clock and a man leaving in a tense state at 11:30, hinting at Peter. According to accounts, this man was the one who sent Daniel to set up the drug lord. Grenz then discovered the woman who had worked as an informant with Daniel. She fled but was caught. However, she claimed to know nothing about his death. The story returns to Peter when he meets Wilcox at a secret location with a federal agent. They say his situation is dire after the death of the police officer and all attempts at cover-up have failed. Peter is outraged, claiming they are turning a blind eye to a Polish diplomat smuggling drugs despite his ample evidence. Keith responds that there is only one way for Peter and his family to survive. Wilcox presents a plan. Peter must accept the drug lord's demands and go to prison. From inside, he will gather evidence about the drug distribution network and a list of contacts within the prison to dismantle the entire system. If successful, he will be freed and his criminal record erased. Peter is stunned, as this means he is being sacrificed. He protests, saying that returning to prison was never part of the plan. Keith reminds him that Peter is involved in the death of a New York police officer. If the truth is revealed, the drug lord will not spare him. Wilcox concluded that refusing the prosecutor would force him to serve 12 years in a high-security prison. Keith insisted that Peter think of his family first and then leave. Wilcox coldly stated that everything was simple and asked him to accept. Despite his anger, Peter finally agreed. Wilcox warned that if he failed in prison, they would pretend they had never known each other. Back home, Peter revealed that he had secretly recorded the entire conversation with Wilcox and Keith to protect himself. In another development, Grenz received a list of suspects from his partner. The records showed that Peter had been a doctor during the Gulf War, had accidentally killed someone in a fight, and was sentenced to 20 years, but only served 4 years in prison before being released unusually. When Grenz asked who could intervene in this matter, the answer was the FBI. Grenz decided to contact them to uncover the truth. The next day, Stasek came to see Peter and informed him that the drug lord would be holding a farewell party before he went to prison. He gave Peter the drugs to distribute in prison and demanded that he report to jail by Monday because the police were conducting a thorough investigation. Peter confessed the entire plan to Sophia, but she insisted that once he was in prison, he would never get out. She left in despair. Before saying goodbye to his daughter, Peter lied, saying he was going on a business trip and promised to return soon. That night, Peter hid the drugs in flower pots to smuggle them into prison. He met Wilcox one last time and was informed that the guards had made arrangements. Peter made 3 demands: 1 day with a general drug inspection, 1 day to clean up the roof, and after 6 days the drugs hidden in the flowers had to be delivered to him. Wilcox only accepted the first 2 demands, refusing the third and saying Peter had to manage on his own. The 2 sides reached an agreement, with a promise that his family would be protected. When Peter returned home, the mob boss and his wife were there to celebrate. Grenz secretly followed them, and when he saw Peter with the mob boss, he was convinced Peter was the one who had framed Daniel. The next day, Sophia orchestrated a fake assault. She called the police, and Peter deliberately vandalized things to create a false scene. When the police arrived, Edward was also present and feigned surprise. Peter meekly allowed himself to be arrested and taken to Bail Prison. There, he was thoroughly searched before being led away by Warden Sluit. The prisoners were abuzz when Peter appeared, and Sluit warned that no one should touch him because he was being held in a special section. The following day, a comprehensive prison inspection took place as Peter had requested. Later, he meets Vermin, the drug lord's henchman, and is informed that all the drugs have been seized. Peter reassures him that more will be brought soon, but Vermin reveals that the funding has been embezzled. Outside, Grenz approaches Wilcox to inquire about the man who was unusually released early. Keith appears tense and urges Grenz to leave, but he continues to pressure Keith. Although Wilcox and Keith deny any involvement, Grenz shows a picture of Peter outside the bar and claims they were involved in Daniel's death and in covering up Peter's death, declaring he won't stop until he finds out the truth. The camera then shifts to Sophia. She hid the drugs in flower pots, stuffed them into the carcass of a dead bird, and together with the boss's henchmen, dropped them onto the prison roof using a small plane. The next day, Peter was assigned to clean up the roof and quickly recovered the drugs. Grenz met with Sophia and said that he had suspected Peter of killing his friend, but was no longer certain. Sophia recounted the brawl at the bar 3 years earlier that had turned Peter from an ordinary person into a criminal, along with a series of promises of help followed by abandonment. Grenz said he was different from them and left his business card hoping she would trust him. Back at the prison, Vermin began distributing funding to various factions. Peter realized that the boss's rival gang had taken notice of him. A stranger approached, handed Peter an earpiece, and identified himself as Grenz. Grenz warned that Peter was about to be completely alone and that the only way out was to cooperate with his men. When he was ready to tell the truth about Daniel's death, Grenz would contact him to get him out. Peter then goes to the chapel with Sluit and falls into an ambush by a rival gang. They intend to kill him and stage a suicide. Peter manages to save himself by claiming to be an FBI informant and offering a distribution list in exchange for taking down the boss. The offer convinces the gang leader, who agrees to cooperate. At the same time, Wilcox receives an urgent summons from Keith. Keith says Grenz has tracked them down. Their identities are exposed, and they are in danger. He orders the burning of all of Peter's files, effectively cutting off all contact, abandoning him in prison, and completely denying his existence if investigated. Wilcox objects to abandoning Peter because she promised to protect him and his family. But Keith threatens to ruin her career, forcing her to remain silent. In prison, Peter feels threatened as he heads to the restroom and prepares his weapon. However, the person who approaches him is only a henchman of the rival gang, who sends a message that the boss sends his regards. This confirmed Peter had protection. The next day, Peter met with the jailer as agreed with Wilcox, presented the list, and requested solitary confinement in exchange for release. The jailer refused, saying he had received orders not to interfere. Peter panicked and called Wilcox for help, but she couldn't answer and hung up. Peter understood he had been betrayed. He called Sophia, telling her to take the money and the tapes and flee with their daughter. But Sophia said Grenz had arrived and was ready to help them. At the same time, Wilcox met with a high-ranking official. Her eyes showed she was plotting something. Sophia went to the hiding place to retrieve the money and the tapes, which contained promises from Wilcox and Keith. Wilcox unexpectedly appeared, admitting they had been tapping the phone. She confiscated the tapes that could incriminate them, gave Sophia the money, and showed her a safe hiding place. On the way, Wilcox rehearses the promises he made to Peter and realizes things have spiraled out of control. Back at the prison, Peter is warned he's about to be killed. He wraps books around himself and searches for weapons hidden under the mattress. But they're gone. When suddenly attacked, Peter defeats the prisoner and deliberately drags the body in front of the camera to trigger the alarm. Peter then unexpectedly raids and overpowers the corrupt guard Sluit. Taking him hostage, Peter exchanges his guard uniform for Sluit's to disguise himself. He then stages a scene to make it look like a guard is being held hostage by a prisoner, to distract the FBI special forces and police surrounding the prison. While snipers fire through the control room window, Peter takes advantage of the chaos of the explosion, feigning injury and blending into the evacuees. He successfully boards an ambulance to escape Bale Hill Prison. When federal agent Keith believed Peter was dead in the control room and attempted to destroy all evidence, Grenz arrived just in time, exposing Keith thanks to a secret recording device Peter had left behind. Keith was arrested for corruption and attempted murder. The film concludes with Peter watching from afar as Wilcox protects his wife and children and takes them to safety, preparing them for a new life of freedom. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.